one of the more painful lessons I learned in the course of my career was I thought, like I had experienced, and I described this in sort of great gory detail in Just Work, but I had experienced a fair amount of workplace problems, and everything from the physical to being underpaid. And I sort of decided at one point in my career that if I were the CEO, if I were in charge, everything would be sweetness and light. And and I think I think I'm not alone in feeling that way. I think a lot of people have that feeling about the world. If only I were in charge. Ian McEwan has a great book, Atonement, where there's a phrase in there. If only I had unlimited control, then none of this would be happening.
Correct.
And I found that when I was the CEO, that I didn't always respond. I wasn't always as conscious of what was going on around me as I should have, and I didn't always respond the way I should have. And so there was a time when there was a guy who was working for me who, first of all, he kind of tried to bully me. And instead of responding like a leader ought to and saying, you cannot talk to the women, if you're talking to me this way, how are you talking to the women who work for you? And this is not acceptable. Like, I should have nipped it in the bud, but I didn't want to make him feel uncomfortable. I thought he's a good guy, all the excuses you give yourself. And so I just sort of let it go. And the problem with letting bullying go when you're the leader is that it's going to escalate. And so, unfortunately, I had the opportunity to see how that worked. So a few weeks later, we're at a all hands. We had the obligatory tech boxes of pizza. And a woman who worked for this guy came up to him. He was sitting on a table. The garbage can was underneath him. And she said she had an empty plate with a crust of pizza on it, obviously needed to throw it away. And she walked up and she said, I need to. And then he spreads his legs and he's like, get in between my legs.
Oh my God.
And it was like one of those moments where you're like, what? But again, I responded not like a leader should have, but like the person harmed. And I kind of rolled my eyes and pulled the garbage can out for her. And tried to like make light of the situation. Whereas what I should have done was say, all right, time out. You and I need to go talk. That's not acceptable. In front of everybody, I needed to make, that's a time when you need to make a big deal and publicly about something. And, but I didn't do that. And then later she said she felt like I had created a hostile work environment for women because of my failure to act. And obviously that was not my intention, but my intentions don't matter. It's the results that matter.
Yeah.
And that was a hard moment for me as a leader, because I felt so
did you
innocent.
recognize at the time?
I did not.
You did not.
No. Right. I'm deeply ashamed. What I did, you want me to tell you what I did?
Please.
True confession.
Sure.
She told me this at a time when we were doing layoffs. And so she left the company and I made her sign an NDA and paid her a little bit of money. Okay. That is illegal in the state of California now, and I'm glad it is. That is a misuse of the instrument of NDA.
Right.
You should never do that. But that was what my lawyer told me to do, who was also a woman. So I think it's really important to recognize that when you, and the thing that I learned from that later, after a lot of therapy and thinking about it a bunch, was that the problem in that case, in part, was that I had unilateral control. When I started that little company, it was very important for me to be in control. And so there was nowhere for her to go to complain about my behavior, my response to his inappropriate comment to her. And you're the CEO, it's really important to put in place checks and balances so that no one at that company, even you, has unilateral decision-making authority.